All right, let's get started. Okay, so let's see what we're going to paint today. As you can see, there's so many elements in this whole reference picture. There's a pot, there's a cup, lots of lemons, there's some cut, there's some limes, there's a small bowl, and you can think of this almost like they're all having a conversation together, but they're still individual pieces and or subjects, and we're going to tackle them individually. But almost the common theme you see with the colors here is there's a lot of yellows and there's lots of purples and greens and everything all coming together. So that's what we're going to keep with the colors. But if you see how you're going to tackle them one by one is when you look at their black and white picture. If you see how they look here, I can give you a small example. Look at this bowl here. Okay, these two are really dark and these are light, and that's what we're going to keep in mind about, that is the values, how light or how dark they are. That's what value means. And when it comes in contrast with the whole teapot here, look at the contrast here. Okay, look at the contrast of the lid here, look at the contrast of this lemon slice here. Okay, these things are very important, and that's why we're going to make sure that we paint them in a way light or dark so that they all look three-dimensional on the same plane. This pot is behind, it is behind this cup, and it is very important to show this relationship here. And I'll show you how to make this happen once we start painting, but it's very important that this lemon that is cut in half pops out in the front. Okay, so all these elements, the way they talk to each other, the way they're related in terms of their uh, colors and their values is very, very important. So, how am I going to start this painting? As usual, I always pick the lighter elements, the as light as possible, so that the next layers I can add more paint. So that's how we're going to do. We're going to start with all the really, really, really light ones and slowly build upon each other. If you see the handle of these teapots and the teacup, they look very similar, but because um, things that are in front are sharper and darker, we're going to keep this dark and this one behind. So this is again very important for us to make sure that some things are pushed behind and some things are in the front. So let's get started with this painting, and I'm going to pick very simple colors. You can see there's a lot of yellows here. There are two types of yellows. One is warmer and one is cooler. This is the cooler yellow. This is the warmer. We have a lot of greens. You can either mix your own greens or we can use it from the tube. I think I'll try to use both today. And then there's a lot of these shadows have a lot of purples here and a lot of blues here. So we're going to make sure we have those things there. Okay. So let's get started. I'm going to keep the image in front of me as close to possible. And for now, I'm going to put this here. And, the whole camera doesn't show everything, but I'm going to make sure that I'll show you as much as color mixing as possible. So again, I'm going to keep it very, very light because lighter value. When you say light, you have less paint and more water. Okay, and that's my goal here. So here we go. We start with really, really light ones here. Believe me, especially with yellows, they dry even more lighter. So once you paint, you're going to feel that, oh, I need some more color here, which is very, very normal. Okay. While this is wet, I'm going to take a little bit of darker yellow here, the warmer, sorry. And I'm going to add a little bit here because I want these colors to blend I'm going to do it wet on wet, which is when already something is wet, I'm going to add some paint to it. Okay, so we've tackled one part here. Next, I think I'm going to go to these ones here because they're lighter. Okay. And I'm going to make sure, you see there's a lot of white here. Because we don't use white paint in watercolors, I'm going to leave it empty. The white of the paper is going to be the white paint here. Okay, so be very, very careful with that. You're going to make sure that those areas are not painted. And while this is wet, I'm going to take the warmer yellow and again paint it very light. Remember, I said I can always come and add more paint, but removing paint is a hassle and the paper can really get frizzy and it can ruin. Again, we can go with this lighter ones. You will be amazed to see how light this paint dries, which is okay. I'm going to leave all the white areas as it is. Just a little bit of those warmer yellows here. I'm constantly looking at my black and white picture and making sure I'm adding those layers. Okay, I'll just wait for a second so that you guys can catch up. After this, I think I'm going to move to this one. Okay, because this is going to be really dark. So I want to make sure that these are, this is tackled first here. This is going to be larger area, so I'm going to use a little thicker brush for this. Okay. Again, I'm going to take some of that cooler yellow, the lemon yellow. Always have enough paint that's mixed on your palette so that you are not short of paint when you start painting. Because the longer you wait to go ahead again and grab your uh, paintbrush and dip into it, the paper will start to dry. And once the paper starts to dry, it'll start to give you some hard streaks, which obviously you don't want. You want like a very nice, spotless painting. So the trick is to have a lot of paint on your palette pre-mixed so that you don't have to go again and mix it. You have things readily available for you. Well, this is already wet. I'm going to go ahead and add some of that warmer yellow here. You can see the warm yellow here? Yeah. Very good. Next, I'm going to give you guys a minute to catch up. If you have any questions, please, please, please put it on the chat. Anything you're not able to understand, I'll be happy to explain. Sometimes I know I can go a bit fast. Please stop me if I'm going too fast. Okay. Next, we can go ahead and tackle these very, very light yellows. It's almost like invisible, but we're still going to do it. Okay. I'm going to take some warmer yellow here. Okay. And just dab very, very lightly. And then take a cooler yellow. Okay. So we can wait here. I'm going to actually take a tinge of red here and add a little bit here. Just a tiny bit. Just to give it some variation. Otherwise, they'll all look the same, right? You have to make slight changes. Just a little bit of warmth here. Okay. All right. Next, I think we can move to these yellows. Okay. But here you have a lot of orange and yellows. That's what I want to do. I want to bring this the darkest here because they are really in front of you, and anything that is in front of you is the darkest, is the sharpest. If you look at a landscape painting, right? If you see like a layer of mountains behind each other, the one that is really farthest is going to be little blurry, little hazy, and not very sharp. And something that's in front of you, the immediate mountain that you see is in front of you, is going to be dark and sharp. And that's what I'm going to do here. I'm going to make sure that this is not just dark, but sharp. And that's why I'm going to put a little more, little bit of tinge of orange in here to make it give that different vibrancy here. Again, it's the same thing. I'm going to keep it light with the cooler yellow, but I'm going to keep it very light because I want warm colors here to show more. Okay. I'm going to take the warmer yellow. Okay. While it is still wet, I'm going to take a smaller brush and use a bit of orange and put some in the lower layers here. I still want to keep it a little more on the yellow side. But much warmer than what we've been using here. You see the difference? See the colors, how we are doing? Just with two yellows, we're mixing so many colors, so many yellows here. I'm going to just leave this here and then move on to the middle areas here. This one is a little lighter and this one is darker. So I'm going to make sure that that effect carries on. And if you see, there are some areas here that are white. So I'm just going to leave those areas as it is and not paint around them. In the middle, if you see, it's darker. Okay. This part is done. Next, we'll move on to this area. Again, some areas here that has no paint. So be careful about that. Again, I'm going to take this really warm area here. Leave some of the areas as it is, or maybe super light. A bit of extra orange here. Okay. Wait for a minute so that you guys can catch up. I may have to come back in some layers and add a little more paint. So that's okay. That's all normal because you can't finish everything in one go. You need to add some details. I think I added too much paint here, so I'm just going to scrub some off. Okay. Next, we can finish this one on top. Again, it's got some yellow and some little bit of red. Okay. Next, we can do some of the greens here. So you'll see there's a lot of greens here. This is more on the acidic side, which we're going to probably use this. This is more on the like the subtle side. We're going to mix some with brown or blues and this make it toned down. So let's start with this. And then again, let's see in the picture, this one is, which one is lighter or darker that you need to understand. I think they're quite close, but this one has a little more darker area here. So that's very important. This is going to be, this is behind, this is front. So in the front, we're going to keep it more sharp, and this one is going to be a little bit on the bluer side. So let's take this green here. I'm going to mix it slightly with some green, tinge of brown maybe, just to tone it down. And yeah, it does have some yellow. I forgot yellow. Okay. Take a little bit of yellow here. Okay. And I'm going to take this green that had a bit of tinge of blue, little more blue to it, and add it here. While I'm already here, I'm going to take a tiny bit of red. If you see carefully, there is a bit of red in that uh, lime here. Every time you're painting something with green, always watch. You'll find something red there. That's how nature is. It balances out the complementary colors. Okay? So definitely keep that in mind. Next, let's do this one. Definitely going to keep it a little more dark and sharp. I'm not going to paint the white area here. Let's take some yellow. Take some of that green. I think I need to mix some more. Take that green. A little more darker. Something that looks more fresh. That's what I'm going to keep it here in the front. Take some of that blue slightly and leave some spaces around here. It has a darker edge here. I'm going to keep it that way. Okay. I'm going to take a minute of break for you to catch up. Slight blue behind here. And a bit of extra yellow in the front. Yeah. Okay. Next, we can go to the other greens here. Okay, the top one, the spout, and then the handle. Okay, so again, to make this look behind the cup, we're going to add a little bit of blue because blue recedes. Okay, and like cooler colors recede and warmer colors, they bring things in front, like the yellow and the orange. So we're going to make sure that this has some blue. Okay, but before that, I feel that it has some other brown layer. I'm going to take a little bit of this brown or this yellow just to make it look that it has some warmth in it. Same with here, just a little bit of, just to show that there is some warmth in it here. Okay, same on the top. Next, I'm going to mix some green here. Same. Add a little bit of brown just to tone it down here. Maybe a little bit of this green. I'm going to test it just to make sure that it's a good color. I think a little more brown. Yeah. Okay. So I'm going to take some of this color here and just lightly paint over it. While it's already wet, I'm going to take that tinge of blue, add to that green, a little thicker paint, let it dry for a minute so that I can paint on it and make those. You can see the design here, like the that you see on the pot. Yeah, done that. Same thing I'm going to do here. Make it really dull. In fact, a little bit of blue would go nice on this. Okay. While it is already wet, I'm going to take a little bit of this green mixed with a tinge of blue, maybe a tinge of brown. The reason I'm adding some brown to it is because it's too acidic. I want it to tone down a little bit. Bit of blue here. This is dry, and I wanted to add a little bit of blue again to make it look like it's behind. Just this thin layer of blue. And then we'll go to this one. This is also a little more on the bluer side. The first very thin layer. A little darker. Okay. Okay. Now that we're done with this, we can go on to this sun. And you can see there's a lot of shadow area here, which has a lot of warmth. It is almost like a purple, but more on the red side. So I'm going to go with a little bit of red and maybe pick some purple. That's too purple. A little more of red. See, maybe a little bit of blue. Yeah, I think that's a good color. I think this is a good color, but a little more on the lighter side. Maybe a little bit of blue. I'm just trying to get the right color here. Trying to keep it more on the warmer side, and I'll keep adding more blue. Okay, I think we're okay. Again, a lot of white areas here, so make sure it's different. And you have to remember one thing. Look, this is lighter and this lime is darker. So maybe I'll have to go and add more color to this. But for now, I'm going to keep this lighter. And then this is going to be darker again. And let's start. This is going to be super light, really light. If you want something light, just add more water. While this is drying, we can go ahead and paint these greens. This is again too acidic. I'm going to add a little bit of blue, but keeping it light. Same, adding a little bit of brown and blue to this green to tone it down slightly. Okay, so we're done with this part. Next, we can tackle this, and once all this is dry, we can go ahead and analyze which needs more paint. Okay, I already know I have to scrub a few places because there's too much paint here. Okay. Okay, how would you do this one? Oh, I know. So yes, you can see there's a lot of warmth here. Okay, because this is shadow area. And same here, we're going to use the same combination here, but more lighter and paint the shadow area. Okay, but first, get that yellow. Flower here. Same, slightly lighter. Again, a little bit of warmth with the warm yellow here. Slightly added with red. You can take that little bit of red again and add some layer here. Just to give it some depth. Otherwise, everything is going to just look like yellow and nothing else. Some rich colors. And for this again, we're going to use the same purple, kind of a very reddish purple mixture. I'm going to super dilute it because I think it's very, very light. It's just almost barely visible. Okay, that's what I'm going to do. Keep it super light, almost barely visible, and paint a very, very thin coat of it. bring the same thing down here. Okay. I also don't mind a bit of yellow here in these areas because like, everything has been reflected from the other areas, from the limes, from the lemons. So it's okay to add in a few colors here. Now let this dry. Okay. In the meanwhile, we can paint this handle. Again, some warmth. Of yellow. Look at the difference here. When I did this handle, I added yellow because this is in front. I want it warm. I want it to look in front. But with this one, I added blue because I want it to go behind and stay behind. Okay. So this is very, very important when you paint something like this. And now my main aim here is to keep it warm. Okay. So once this dries, we can start adding a bit of details here. Here we can add some green, keeping it super light. Letting it dry. In the meanwhile, we can go ahead and add some of the details here. Need a smaller brush. Okay. Next, little thicker mixture. And go ahead and paint this. I think still needs a little warmth. Yeah. And see, side ones are lighter. As you come in between, becomes darker, thicker. Those things are very important to analyze when you're painting. And then a little more thickness here. Same with this. We're going to continue with some adding a little bit of very, 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 very light lines. Some of them are going to be barely visible. Make sure you follow the direction of how the lines are going inwards and outwards. Same here. I'm going to add some lines. I'm going to take a layer here and finish this. Just darken it slightly, and then we'll go into the detailing. You can already see things are coming in front, but we still have some work to do. Most important thing is to give these the shadows that they need. Okay, and this needs to be a little darker. So that's what I'm going to do next. I'm going to take some of that green, give it that darkness that I need. Okay, I think this was pretty okay. This is fine where we got to. Not too worried about this. Yeah, I think there are some layers that are missing here. And then slightly here, I want to add some orange just to give it a little bit of a change here. And this red kind of blending into this, giving it those reflections here. And adding some more depth to the bottom here. You can see that everything is coming together. Here, we could take some reds, and you can see that this place has some darks here. Same with this. And then I'm going to take some nice purple here, mixed with a little bit of red. Give it that shadow area that makes it feel that it's been resting on some surface. I'm going to just dab my brush in clean water, and I'm going to just pull this off. You see that how it went? Take some of that blue. Some of that green here, some of more warmth here, and just let everything flow. Even some of that yellow, actually. If you see, shadows have even, here they have a lot of colors. They're not gray, they're not boring. Shadows have a lot of color. Same bottom here, dark. Okay, so that gives it like a very, very nice flowy effect. I realize I missed this area here, so I'm just going to complete that. Just to see that bowl coming together. You can see now everything starts to come together. What is behind, what is in the front, right? I may go and add a tinge of blue in this area because it's too bright. Yeah, this looks that it's in the back. Maybe need a little bit of yellow here. I told you it gets so light, you might have to go in and add some layer. Same with this, adding some strength to those yellows. Okay, we just have this last bit left and then we're almost done. So we just have a little bit of the shadow here. You can see it's following almost like a pattern, like a curve pattern here. And I'm just going to keep it very simple, very, very light of this mixture of red and blue and purple. And I'm just going to dab it in certain places, just creating that effect. In different directions. Take some green here. I'm going to create that the design that shows here, just details. A little bit of yellow here. I'm going to take a bit of red again, diluted. And this area needs some warmth. Okay. I'm also going to take a little bit of more yellow and add a little bit of depth here because it should look like it's sitting inside the bowl. These are all the last details that's required to make it look like it's sitting in the bowl. Adding all the colors that I've seen that I used in this painting. And you can see that how it's almost like the reflection, right? Of each coming across. Just giving it a little more darker area here. And then I'm just going to compare and see if this is coming in front. This is coming in the front. This is behind this, and this is furthermost. Maybe a little bit of blue to make it look more further. And maybe a little bit of dark, thicker green here. Just to make it look, it's all coming in the front. I think we've gotten all the other areas well. I'm just going to clean up this area slightly. It's a little patchy, so I'm just going to smoothen up and maybe go ahead and add slight darks here, bit of orange here. This also has a bit of the shadow here, so I'm going to make sure it's there. I think we've covered almost all the areas very well. And then you can see that how we have tackled every area by moving in front and behind by using yellows and blues to make that happen. Yellows come in the front, that things look brighter in the front, and blues will push things behind. So this is very important when you plan a painting like this, because otherwise everything will look flat and they look like they're standing in a straight line, even though they are not. So I think that's it from me today. And don't forget to sign your paintings. It's so important. Always sign it. You can date it if you like, but definitely sign your paintings.